Right, next we're going to be talking about section 5.4, and that is talking about the types of membranes. It is a relatively short section of chapter 5, so I won't spend too much time on it. First of all, we need to talk about the definition of an epithelial membrane. It has two types of tissue. So an epithelial membrane is a continuous multicellular sheet composed of at least two types. You have the epithelial tissue and the connective tissue. So it's an epithelium bound to a discrete underlying connective tissue. There are three common types. The first type, as you can see on the PowerPoint, is called a serous membrane. These are found in closed ventral body cavities and consists of two layers with a potential space between them. So you have your visceral membrane, which covers an organ, and then you have your parietal membrane that lines the body cavity. This should be sort of a review from chapter 1. So these membranes secrete a thin watery fluid called a serous fluid into the cavity between the membranes, and that functions as a lubricant. And each membrane consists of a thin layer of simple squamous epithelial tissue resting on a thin layer of areolar connective tissue. And they are named for the organs that occupy each cavity. So you have the pleural cavity, which refers to your lungs, pericardial, your heart, and peritoneal, your abdominal organs. So, and those are the serous membranes of the body. So like the pericardium, that stuff around the heart, is a part of that, of a serous membrane. Then you have your mucous membrane. And that, of course, lines body cavities that are open to the outside, like your lungs. When you breathe in, they have mucous membranes, or they're lined with mucous membranes. Your digestive tract also has a mucous membrane, as well as your urinary tract. And these are wet and moist membranes. Because they are secreting mucus. And this consists of a layer of epithelium, and it's firmly attached to a layer of loose areolar connective tissue. So you have it in contrast to the serous membrane, which was just sort of resting on it, to being firmly attached. So the mucous membranes are firmly attached. Then you have your cutaneous membrane, and that is basically your skin. It covers your body surface, and it consists of keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelial tissue firmly attached to a thick layer of dense, irregular connective tissue. And you have your synovial, and it lines joints, and basically we're going to be talking about it a little later on. But synovial fluid in your joints, like if you ever pop your knuckles, you have experienced synovial fluid. However, so we are going to move on to muscular tissues. Since that one was relatively short, we're just going to combine membranes and muscular tissues together in one lesson. So 5.5, muscle tissues. All muscle cells are elongated muscle fibers, and they are contractile, so they can shorten, which is why you can flex your muscles. You have three types of muscles that we're going to be talking about. And the first one is skeletal muscle. So those are long, thin cells with a lot of nuclei. So instead of, how we studied the composite cell with just one nucleus, this has many different nuclei in the cell in a long fiber. It is attached to bones and it helps you move. And it is voluntary, so you think about what you are doing. You think about moving your arm from here to here. So it is something that you consciously control, whereas things like, your heart beating is not something that you always think about. So your skeletal muscle tissue is stuff that you consciously control. Another important fact to know about the skeletal muscle tissue, that not only does it have the many nuclei, it has alternating areas of light and dark, so there's striations. And then we will move on to smooth muscle. Smooth muscle is non-striated. So if we just go back to this really quick and you look at that picture, how you can see those little lines, dark and light, you are not going to see those in this picture of smooth muscle tissue. So these are spindle-shaped cells with one centrally located nucleus. So they don't even have a ton of nuclei like the skeletal muscles that you control. They are one nucleus, not striated, and they are found in the walls of hollow visceral organs, walls of blood vessels, and attached to hair follicles in the dermis. And they are basically, or their basic function is the movement of food through the digestive tract, vasoconstriction, and vasoconstriction just means the constricting of your blood vessels, and the movement of food through those tracts is incredibly important, and it's part of it's involuntary, so you aren't actually thinking about making your smooth muscles do anything, they just go ahead and do it. It is unconscious. Then, of course, you have your cardiac muscle, and it's called cardiac muscle. So when you see the word cardiac, you should immediately think, oh, it's in the heart. And it's only found in the heart. And it is a structure of branching cells with one centrally located nucleus per cell and intercalated discs. And what that means is it's where two cells meet. And so there are striations. So if you look at the picture, you see those really dark lines, and those are going to be your intercalated discs. And then you also see dark and light striations on those cells. And found in the heart, because it is called cardiac. And the main function of this muscle is to pump blood from the heart to the lungs, and then from the heart to the body. It is involuntary because you don't think, oh, I need to start beating, or my heart needs to be beating right now. It doesn't take up any of your thought, it just is happening inside of you. So what the in-class activity for this is going to be is another table, and you are taking these three types of muscle tissues, the skeletal muscle, the smooth muscle, and the cardiac muscle. You're going to be describing them, and then you're going to say the type of control. And when it asks for the type of control, what it's looking for is that involuntary or voluntary. Are you consciously thinking about controlling these muscles, or does it just happen? Then you are going to write where they're found, what their function is, and then you will draw a sketch of them. And you can find this information on page 172 of your textbook, and I'm sure you can see the pictures better than on this video and PowerPoint, so I highly suggest you look that up, and I hope that helps you complete your muscle tissue summary table.